And there it is, the 2020 Nissan GT-R Nismo. And these Nismo versions of the GT-R are pretty much package deals, so very few options. This one has two of the few, one being the Pearl White Tricoat paint for $1,000, and the second we'll see when we get to the interior. It's a set of carpeted floor mats. Very exciting. But that means the rest of the exterior and interior features that you see on this car do come as standard. And before we get too much further, a couple quick announcements. If you have not subscribed to the channel, get on it. We've got daily videos for you, including POV drives day and night, walkarounds, live Q&As, and these reviews, one of which you're watching right now. And if you do want to check out the POV drive day and night and walk around for this car, in other words, you don't want to hear me talking anymore, you are free to do so. More than welcome. I promise I won't be offended. And if you would like to support the channel, like what I'm doing, you want to give me a thumbs up with your money, I do appreciate it. My life as an automotive journalist is not a lucrative one, and so any support I can get for the efforts I put into this channel, I really appreciate. A couple of different ways you can do that. I have a Patreon account with some fun perks, and then I've got merchandise like t-shirts to represent the MilesPerHr brand. And with all that said, let's get into this 2020 GT-R Nismo. So up here at the front, we're noticing immediately some of the changes that Nismo brings to the GT-R. It has a unique front fascia made entirely of carbon fiber, a unique rear fascia, sides, and wheels that we'll get into in a second. But to start, we can see some simple things like Nismo badging up here at the front, just to the right of the GT-R crest, and then carbon fiber, beautiful carbon fiber weave all along this front bumper piece. Air inlets built right into the lower fascia. A jutting front splitter, also in carbon fiber with winglets. You can see the LED daytime running lights. And the red pinstriping is also a call out that this is the Nismo model. You're going to see that work its way through the exterior and interior of the car. But I just love this carbon fiber, and especially with a white contrast for the red and the gray and black of the carbon fiber, it looks really good. Some black gloss here just below the GT-R badge, but just everything else, carbon fiber. So good. Standard LED headlights and daytime running lights with that same shape that we've known since 2008 for the headlights. Very distinctive on this car. And then moving over this way, we're going to see a couple things. One, it is a carbon fiber hood. So painted carbon fiber, yes, but carbon fiber nonetheless. And we can see some elements that are not painted. These air inlets on the hood that the GT-R has had since the R35 debuted in 2008. You're not going to confuse Godzilla for anything else. And as we make our way to the side, we see some more Nismo specific touches, including these fender heat extractors, also showing off the carbon fiber, looking so cool, so race ready. And these are pulling hot air away from the brakes and tires. And speaking of, we've got Ray's forged alloy 20-inch wheels, front and rear in black gloss, with Nismo imprinted on the side. And wrapping those up is a set of Dunlop SP Sport Max high performance tires, size 255 section front, 285 rear. And your braking hardware, as standard, you get carbon ceramics for the calipers and for the rotors. 6-piston front calipers, 4-piston rear, 16.1-inch front rotors, ventilated as we can see, and 15.3-inch rotors in the rear. So plenty of braking force here, and good grippy tires. We can see the carbon ceramic side sills, another Nismo specific touch with that red pinstriping all along the side. GT-R badging up there. And then the black gloss mirrors with the red pinstriping, also part of the Nismo trim. And then a carbon fiber roof, full carbon fiber roof. Once again, Nismo specific. All of these carbon fiber pieces add up to save 86 pounds compared to the GT-R Premium, and 44 pounds compared to the outgoing Nismo version of the GT-R. Now let's look at this profile. It's looked the same for 12 years now, yet I think it has aged so well. It is a very distinctive silhouette. You're not going to confuse it for anything else on the road. And just the design language has aged really well. I'm blown away every time I see this car as to how much I still take the double take. I still look. And especially this Nismo model, because it's got enough flair to keep you intrigued. Rear 3/4, we can start to see those quad tail lights, bigger round ones on the outside, smaller on the inside, very distinctive as well. And then we can see some ventilation built into the carbon fiber piece around the back. And as we work our way this way, we see the blue of the titanium exhaust, standard on the Nismo model. Makes a slightly better noise than the standard GT-R, but honestly, it's nothing that's going to blow your hair back. Some, bangs and pops from overrun, but really I want more out of the exhaust noise. Carbon fiber rear fascia, more of that red pinstriping that runs along the upper part of the diffuser. Nismo badging, GT-R badging, and these are LED taillights. Up here, massive wing. Massive wing. Fixed. You cannot adjust it. I know nothing about aerodynamics, so I don't know what these specific cutouts do. I know that it's a wing and not a spoiler. You can see the carbon fiber work. Beautiful up along the top. And you really could use this as a table. It's huge. That's my hand. Large size hand. Even larger size spoiler. Wing. Wow. And there's your rear view. So all in all, the GT-R Nismo is distinct from the GT-R Premium in the design category. They've done enough with the carbon fiber, the wheels, the brakes, and the wing to distinguish it. But the overarching theme of the design is the same as it was in 2008, which says more credit to the designers in 2008 than anything. They came up with something that just worked back then and still works today. And here's the funny thing. It looks much bigger in video and photos than it really is in person. For me, my test is always my garage. How much space do I have in the garage after I've parked it to open the doors, to the side, it's a single car garage, and space behind it to close the door. This one, I was shocked. I had a lot of space behind the car and plenty of space to open the doors, which just says that, the body is big. The body is big in design. Godzilla is big in design, but its actual footprint is not that large. And there we go. It's time to get into the interior of the Nismo GT-R and check that out. And on our way in, you can grab hold of the door handle. It's a flush style, but unlike some where you press here and the door handle pops this way, these, you can see the kind of braille down here. It tells you where you should put your finger. Press there and it pops out from the front, and then you pull. You can leave the key in your pocket. That's smart unlock and lock, but you do have to press this button. That kind of seems old school to me. To lock it, either unlock it. When you've unlocked it, pull the handle, and you can hear pop, and the door opens, revealing one consistent theme: a lot of Alcantara, which is cool. Race cars have Alcantara. The GT-R Nismo has Alcantara everywhere. And I mentioned the second option in the car was floor mats. Well, I'm not going to keep you waiting anymore. Here you are, these thick GT-R badged floor mats. The carpeting itself isn't thick, but these emblems are huge. They stick up so much, but they look cool. Is that worth $425 to you? You be the judge. But hopping right to the seats, they are Recaro sport bucket seats. In Europe you can get a different option that look much racier than this, but for the US market you just get these thickly bolstered, Alcantara inserted, ventilated, ooh, that's fun, watching the handprint, I'm a child, Recaro badged, Nismo badged seats. Pretty comfortable. You do need to be of narrow body because the bolsters are tight on you, but a good amount of adjustability, 8-way power adjustments. So I love these controllers actually. Typically there's two. There's one that goes this way and one for the seat back. This one combines both. So you crank it that way and it will adjust the seat back angle. Crank it the other way, it does the same. Press to make it go back, press to make it go forward. Lifting raises the back of the seat cushion, and then you've got your heat for high and low settings for the front two passengers, and then lifting this part raises just the front angle, so you should be able to find a comfortable seating position for you. I wish that these side bolsters were adjustable like some cars. I know I was just in the BMW X5M competition, those were adjustable, and it really makes a difference to match your body type. Not an option on the GT-R Nismo, but as is, you do have some adjustment for the seat. Should be able to find a comfortable driving position. The doors are padded in leather with this red contrast stitching. Looks and feels good. You know, not the ultra high-end leather you can expect from a more premium vehicle, but pretty good. Some use of cheapy plastic, but not a ton. This panel down here is carpeted instead of going with cheap plastic. I prefer that, certainly. Narrow door pocket in there. And you can see the Bose sound system. Again, standard featured 11 speaker Bose sound system. Good speaker system. I'm a fan. You do note that this is a 2+2 model. So there are 2 seats in the back. Only I would never want to be the person shoved back there, and I will show you why. So first of all, to access the rear seats, you have to pull up on this lever in the back. This will angle, but then unlike some cars where just pressing that forward would make the seat go all the way forward, you have to then go to this adjustment and hold it, 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 until you've made an opening wide enough for the person to get in. Now, thankfully, the seat can go forward far enough to get in, but when you're back here, I am 6 feet tall, and let's see, that's my headroom. That's my headroom. I am literally turtled right now. I'm hunched over, I can't put my head any further back, and I'm slouched forward a little bit. If I was to really slouch forward, which I can't do because of my knees go to the back of the seat, then I could almost put my head back. But does this look comfortable to you? It's not. It's just not. And if I was to put the seat back and then the driver would have to adjust it back, because I have no way from back here to adjust the seat back. And no driver is going to sit with their crotch all up in that steering wheel like that. So expect the seat to come back, and then I'm not going to have any leg room. So no, you cannot fit adults back here. Just not going to happen. Small children, possibly, but anyone else, no. So really just view these back seats, and to get out now, I'm definitely going to have to lift this, push forward. So view these back seats as additional storage for your stuff. Oh gosh, I'm stuck. And I made it out. Yeah, so additional storage for your stuff, not for people. Oh, it's gonna take forever. While we're doing that, we can notice the GT-R on the side kick plates. Oh, fun fact about the carbon fiber side skirt, I consistently, while getting out of the car, managed to put my heel, on top of it while getting out. Not trying to, it just happens. So that's one thing to watch out for, not something you want to break, so just be careful as you're getting out of the car. And let's now sit in the driver's seat. That's right about my driving position. Close up this door. Nice leather wrapping in red on the handle. Nice solid sound for the door close. And then this is what we're looking at. Fully Alcantara wrapped steering wheel, GT-R crest with leather behind that, with nice stitching. Alcantara, there is some red stitching on the center, and then a red center marker in leather. Looks and feels really good. The only downside to Alcantara is it doesn't wear very well. So oils from your skin and just the pilling of the Alcantara material will mean that this wheel won't look great in a few years, but for now, it looks awesome. So beyond that, we have a carbon fiber style backing with a red, maybe I hadn't actually closed this. I didn't. Wow. That's what the door sounds like when it's closed. Clarified. The red tachometer is part of the Nismo package, so you only get red with Nismo. Off to the right, we can see your fuel gauge, oil temperature, and then your gear indicator. I love the gear indicator, prominent. And then this monitor down here, tiny, showing the age of the car. You can adjust with these buttons over off to the right, your fuel economy, the speedo, which I have all the time because, as you can see off to the left, the analog speedo has no range, very, very minute range between 0 and 40. So you finally tuning the speed to, say you want to go 25 miles an hour. Well, you have this little window in there between 20 and 30 to tell that you're going 25. So yeah, you need to use the digital speedo to make sure that you're doing an exact 25 in a neighborhood, for example. That just cracks me up. But yeah, so other telemetry data stuff, you can see your trip meter above that, fuel economy, time, miles, range, temperature, and that's about it. Off to the left, we have adjustments for lighting, trip reset, and then up here we can see the Alcantara on the upper dashboard with the contrast stitching. Looks so good. I love it. All over the cabin. Looks fantastic. Just makes you feel like you're in a racing cockpit. And then the Bose sound system speaker up there. Paddles on the steering wheel. Feels somewhere between ultra high quality and cheap. They're nice, but not blowing me away. They are mounted to the steering wheel, not to the column. I wish they were mounted to the column, but such is life. Good range when you're pulling on the paddle, and a nice feel. Clink, clink. Doesn't feel cheap, feels solid. Got some controls for your media settings. Cruise control over here. No adaptive cruise control or lane keeping assist or any of those active safety goodies, active driving aids, convenience features, showing that it's an older vehicle. That's just what it is. No flat bottom to the wheel. It's just a reasonably small diameter wheel. Not tiny, but yeah, no flat bottom. And then this is that plasticky stuff. I mentioned adjustability of the seat, but how about adjustability of the wheel? Well, you have a couple options with the GT-R. these tabs under the steering wheel, you pull the one on the left with some effort, and that adjusts the tilt. And notice that this is pretty cool. It adjusts the full gauge cluster with you. That just looks funny, right? But okay, it's done it that way since 2007 or 2008. That's cool. So you pull up on that tab, and then we go over to this one on the right, and now we're working with the telescope. So some good adjustability there. I wish that the same pull down would adjust both at the same time, but hey, you got to use two different tabs. Eventually you find a good driving position for yourself and you're in business. Off to the left over there, you've got your trunk release, and then you can store your key in there if you want to. Actually, let's pop the trunk and take a look at that real quick. Real quick. And I'm going to list the cargo capacity of the trunk. Don't remember it off the top of my head. I know it's reasonably good sized. That's just because I'm looking at it. The opening for the trunk is okay. Not huge, but it's super deep. Like, that's my arm. Goes to above the elbow of depth. So you can fit a lot in this trunk, even though it's not super deep that way. Then to close, ooh, you can see the carbon fiber with a different weave on the trunk. That's cool. To close, there's just a handle here, not a power operated trunk. Then close like that. Back inside. These over here are adjustments for your door mirrors, left and right, and then you can power fold them. The press of a button. Moving over, you see I have the function monitor on. So this is where all of your active gauges are displayed. Looks really cool. It is an 8.0 inch touchscreen infotainment that you can also control by the scroll wheel down here. And it's pretty outdated. It does have Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto. I will show you how our Apple CarPlay looks via the POV night drive. But yeah, the resolution isn't the most cutting edge, but the displays and function are pretty cool. So your boost, oil temperature, PSI, braking distances. You can customize stuff in that view. Coolant temperature boost, again, acceleration, braking, torque split. Just cool views, cool sport gauge views. So I'm down with that. Back to the menu, and here's where the thing just really shows its age. Doesn't this look like, you know, early 2010s resolution? Yes, because the Nissan Infiniti setup has looked largely the same since then. It has gotten faster with time. That's good. But the menu itself isn't amazing. You do get navigation as standard, but it's a little slow. Pinch and zoom like a smartphone, thankfully. But if you want to move it, oh yeah, it lags. It lags and the resolution isn't great. So don't come in with high expectations. You do have Sirius XM radio and Apple CarPlay that I mentioned. You have a tuner on the right, volume on the left. More of this leather and contrast stitching. This is good quality stuff. There isn't a ton of cheap material in here. Even this plastic feels solid. So yeah, there's a little cheapness to the plastic on the wheel and in the door, but that's largely it for cheapness in the cabin. Oh, and you do have some throwback, like, don't these buttons just look like they're right off of like an Altima or a Sentra from the late 2000s? It's because they probably are. Over here, dual zone climate control. I already showed you the heated seats with controls on the sides of the seats. And then we get into the fun controls over here. So this is for your transmission, suspension, traction control. A couple different settings for each. You can go down to save, which is just going to make it pretty sloppy, I'll be honest. Normal, and then hold up for race. Over here, just comfort down below. That's the one I leave it in most of the time because this car rides pretty rough with the Bilstein adaptive dampers. Normal, hold up, race, traction control off all the way down. Wouldn't do that very often, but you can. Middle, up for race. When you have all three held up at the same time, you have entered launch control mode. You just hold your foot on the brake while also giving it gas, building up revs to around 4,000 RPM. Release the brake and you're off 0 to 60 in like 2.5 seconds. It's crazy. So that is those settings there. Love the blood red of this start-stop button. It looks very high quality, visually engaging. Dig that. Nismo specific shifter for your 6-speed automatic, dual clutch automatic. And the pattern is interesting. So we're down in reverse. Car's not on. Let me turn on the car. I'm also dying. Gets kind of stuffy in here. Car is on now, so we can see the pattern. Park, reverse comes over just naturally. And then there's a standard backup camera, but again, no, it has parking sensors, but that's as sophisticated as it gets. You don't have the bird's eye view. That would have been nice. Down, now you're in drive mode. Click over once, and you've gone from auto to manual. Back to auto again. Put it in park. You can see the carbon fiber finish on here. It's not the high gloss, cheapy looking carbon fiber. This is good quality stuff. I love the matte finish. Looks and feels excellent. The Nismo badge with the ruby O of the Nismo. That's super cool. Look at that. A physical handbrake. When's the last time you saw a physical handbrake on a performance car? That is so awesome. That's so awesome. Yes, it's an all-wheel drive car and you're not going to be like busting it out and flipping the rear end around or anything, but that's still cool. Super cool. Cover for you to stash stuff. Slide it back. You get a couple cup holders and your key, which looks like any other Nissan or Infiniti key, but it has GT-R up top. No remote start, no nothing sophisticated at all. Cheaper plastic. This is the letdown of this car. $200,000 car, cheapest key you can imagine at that price point. So that's a bit of a letdown. Leather wrapping for the, you can see my hands are starting to sweat because I had the car off, no AC for a while. Leather wrapping and red contrast stitching for the center console, which you can lift up and find a pair of USB ports and an aux jack, and then a DC socket where you could put, you know, if you wanted a plug to do USB-C ports, for example, say your devices are USB-C, you can do that, but it's pretty shallow in here. You can't store a bunch of stuff in there. And then off on the passenger side, they don't have a ton to look at, but that's okay. It's driver focused. Even the orientation of the center stack is slightly tilted towards the driver. It's the driver's car. I mean, come on. Down here, glove box with not a ton of capacity. And then visibility. We can see with the seat up in this position here, if it was all the way back reclined, I would not be able to use that rear window, and therefore I would have a much bigger blind spot. But with the seat like this, I can see out pretty darn easily. You also see the Alcantara headliner. Very nice. And then the sun visors, more Alcantara on those. Good size mirror. But these don't slide. They don't slide, and they don't have additional pull downs for the front. So that's kind of a fail for me. And you know, I brought up storage a second ago, which really makes me wonder whether my large water bottle is going to fit in the Nissan GT-R Nismo. And thankfully I have it right here with me. For the large water bottle test, Nissan GT-R Nismo style. Let's try it out. We know where the cup holders are. Slide them back and check it out. Oh, it's close. But this isn't a game of horseshoes or hand grenades, so this isn't going to work. That's just going to slide all over the place. I suppose you could leave it there, but it's going to make the infotainment do things all the time. So that's just not going to work for me. I don't like that. Door pockets. What do we got? Oh, potentially. I mean, that can kind of work, but I'm afraid that it's just gonna floppy dingus out. So that's a mild pass on that. Half-hearted yay from the kids. And then glove box. I hate to even use it as an option. And in fact, it isn't one. So no glove box. And that's it. That's it for the interior storage of the GT-R. So I'm gonna give it a fail. I have to give it a fail. This, I suppose, in a pinch could work, or to your side, but it just doesn't really pass the large water bottle test. Sorry, GT-R. And with that, I think we are done with the interior of the 2020 Nissan GT-R Nismo, which means it's time to rev up this bad boy and take it for a spin. I'm going to start this review from a standstill because I need you to hear something. Do you hear the shuddering as the car comes to life? If that doesn't make you feel like you're driving a race car, I don't know what does. Well, there are a couple other things that I think make you feel like you're driving a race car in this GT-R Nismo. One, as I've already demonstrated from the interior walk around, the Alcantara all over the upper part of the dashboard, the Alcantara covered steering wheel, the red center marker, that's pretty race car-ish. And then these toggles down here for your drive modes. I mean, holding them up to go into race mode. That's so cool! That is the coolest, most race car inspired thing I can think of in a modern sports/supercar. I don't know. That's rad. So yes, I feel like I'm driving a race car. And that's just to start. When you actually get going, you really feel like you're driving a race car, because how many vehicles are developed from top down by a company's racing division? How many production vehicles are developed by a company's racing division? Not many. Nismo, Nissan's racing team, have sorted this car through. The suspension, Bilstein adaptive dampers, have been sorted by them. The brakes, carbon ceramics, have been sorted by them. The bodywork, the carbon fiber elements, lightening this car up by 68 pounds compared to the standard GT-R, that's been sorted by them. Nismo has transformed this car from an already wickedly fast GT-R to this, which is just an absolute thrill. The transmission, a 6-speed dual clutch automatic that just lacks the refinement of a modern gearbox on public roads. Yes, you can feel the shifts when you're driving around in traffic. But here, in a performance application, I'm now on a canyon road, whipping it through. In automatic mode, it flips through the gears instantly, and then if you go to manual mode, they're there right when you want them. It's amazing what they've done with this car. And then there's the engine. A hand-built engine, 3.8 liter twin turbo V6, hand-built in a hermetically sealed room, I believe, in Japan. This one was built by Hiroyumi Ichikawa, and he did a bang-up job. They give Hiroyumi a couple of turbos from Nismo's GT3 GT-R race car, and what we're left with when he's done is 600 horsepower and 481 pound-feet of torque. Now, I realize when you're getting into the $200,000 plus territory, which this car is, 600 horsepower is good, but not astounding. But the way this car accelerates is still mind-boggling. The way it did in 2008 was mind-boggling. It's still mind-boggling. 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds? That's so quick. It's so quick. And if you keep your foot in it with enough runway, you'll see 205 miles an hour. Yeah, it's modern levels of fast, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely. But the way it goes in a straight line is not the kicker anymore. That was the car's party piece back when it was introduced for the 2008 model year. But these days, with the Nismo model, it's the way it goes around a corner. And here's my philosophy as it relates to the GT-R. Back when it was introduced, people were really excited about the performance and, you know, the straight line speed, but they had some misgivings about the fact that it was so, in a way, disconnecting for the driver because it felt like a computer game. You just put your foot in it and the all-wheel drive system would take care of you. The electronically assisted rack didn't really have much engagement. But now, and that was at the time relative to the cars, a lot of rear-wheel drive cars, a lot of hydraulically assisted racks. But now, in 2020, so many of the cars that it was once competing against have gone much more digital. Their driver aids are really driver nannies. And this, in Nismo grade, is a pretty connected setup. I feel a lot of what's going on with the car through the steering wheel. Yes, it's not quite as dialed as like a mid-90s 911, but it's pretty darn good for 2020. And then the suspension, the tires, Dunlops. You wouldn't necessarily think Dunlops right off the bat, but they've clearly given Nissan their best rubber because they grip so well in corners. And these brakes, they are astonishingly good. I love that they don't unsettle the car under hard braking. You feel confident under hard braking. Back to my philosophy. So yes, the modern version of the GT-R is now the driver's car. Worlds have changed. Things have been flipped on their head. This is now the driver's car. What is going on? And when these turbos are on boost, which is really anywhere above 3,000 RPM, they're doing a bang-up job to get this car moving. Really, the only thing not engaging about this car is the exhaust note. Titanium exhaust, you would expect a better noise coming from that, but it's not really that great. Only like above 6,000 RPMs do you get, you know, that really mechanical racing noise. But not from the exhaust. You get a little bit of pop and bang when you downshift, but it's so muted. But it is a V6, so I'm gonna give him a pass. I'm also gonna give him a pass because everything else about it is fun. You can hear the turbos coming on. That's pretty cool. So yes, the out of exhaust noises are good. Beyond exhaust noises are very good. And I mean, I just can't get over how much fun you can have from behind the wheel of this car. It is a race car for the road, and that's an overused expression, but that's genuinely what you feel like behind the wheel of this. You're like, on public roads, it just feels wrong. It just feels wrong to be driving this on public roads. It doesn't feel like it should be legal. It makes you just itching to get to a good canyon road, or ideally a racetrack. I wish I had a racetrack at my disposal because I would have even better things to say about this. Of that, I'm sure. But as is, all the things I'm experiencing from behind the wheel are great. And I really came in skeptical. I came in skeptical because the car is so old, and I came in skeptical because it's $212,000 for the Nismo model, which just is so much penny. It's getting real close to, you know, Lamborghini Huracan territory that you just want to write it off as just another GT-R, which when you can get the base GT-R for 2020 for like $115,000, an extra 100 grand more, you're like, you're crazy. But this is not just another GT-R. This is one that's been sorted by the racing team, and you feel it from every aspect. Every aspect. I love this car. Oh man. I'm beating on it now, and it's giving it back to me. It's rewarding me. But okay, how else could you spend your money besides $212,000 on a GT-R, which, you know, I think has aged pretty well stylistically, and clearly with the performance elements is holding its own. There are actually a lot of different ways you can spend your money, so it's kind of a tough one to ask. I suppose you can consider the Porsche 911 Turbo S for $191,000 and with 641 horsepower. 0 to 60 time right around the same as the GT-R, 2.5 seconds, and a top speed the same, 205 miles an hour. That's one way of spinning it. Not exactly the racier element, more of a touring class, but certainly quick in a straight line like the GT-R. Then we have, on another end of the spectrum, the Ford Mustang GT500, the new one, $74,000, but with 760 horsepower. 0 to 60, 3.3 seconds, so a little slower than this, but I mean, it makes gobs of power and it's super fun. Then, if you want to stick with the Mustang, you have the GT350R, and that's more race design and perspective, and that's going to make less power. It's going to be slower to 60, but it is going to give you that feedback and that sense of control on a racetrack that the GT-R Nismo is going to have. Perhaps not quite as close, but it's pretty darn good. I've driven that one on a few racetracks and loved every minute of it. And then you have probably the closest competitor in my mind, the Mercedes-AMG GT-R. That one at $163,000 and with 577 horsepower, 0 to 60, slower than this by about a second. But that one really is that racing-inspired fun. And that one, you know, it being a Mercedes-AMG vehicle, having the refinement of a German luxury automaker, I don't know, and it being less expensive, $163,000 compared to $212 for this, I would really be tempted by that car. That one on a racetrack is also a kick in the pants. So I guess my conclusion on the 2020 Nissan GT-R Nismo is this. The GT-R has never been better, but I don't want to just frame it in that. I want to say that while it is expensive, seriously expensive, it doesn't feel overpriced. This feels like a good decision, a good way of spending gobs of cash if you're so well endowed. But there are options, and this car is not going to be for everyone. And for folks who want something more refined, more luxurious, I should say, or more comfortable on a daily basis, perhaps more prestigious from a German luxury manufacturer, there are options. And if you want to save gobs of cash, there are other options that give you, you know, probably 80% of this car. But if you want the Japanese approach to performance, if you want to feel like you're driving a race car every day, and I didn't dive too deeply into the daily driving comfort, but it really isn't there, even in the comfort settings. It's pretty rough. So if you want more of that, you have options for less money, for the same money. But I love this car, and I really see a place for it being the best of the R35 generation and being a last hurrah, a really good last hurrah for the GT-R R35. And I'm going to end this review with a launch because, well, you got to. It's a GT-R. So pulling up on the 3, putting it into race mode, switching it over to manual, foot on the brake hard, punch it, let go at 4,000 RPM.